The energy system of tomorrow calls for solutions that are green, flexible, resilient, and socio-economically feasible. Few solutions embody these qualities as well as district heating. As heating accounts for more than 40% of global energy-related CO2 emissions, it's crucial that our heat supplies are part of the green transition of our energy systems. Until recently, in most countries, there's been a lack of a clear thread from national energy visions and policy to the planning in regions, municipalities, and energy companies. But now, heat planning is on the agenda in countries all across Europe, and several of them are looking to Denmark for inspiration on how to see it through. You're listening to Sound of Green, a podcast from State of Green. Each episode, we invite experts and stakeholders to convey Danish perspectives on a given challenge of the global green transition. Through decades of experience, Denmark has turned many of these challenges into opportunities. By sharing these experiences, we hope to help you do the same. In this episode, we explore how decades of Danish experiences with heat planning and district heating are being disseminated. And we tell the story of the value they've already created just south of the Danish border. In Denmark, district heating has been part of the heat supply for over 100 years. And today, 2/3 of all Danish households are connected to a district heating network. Even so, the average Dane wouldn't necessarily be able to explain just how district heating actually works. Luckily, it's actually not that complicated.
District heating, put very simply, is piped hot water going into houses in a city. So basically, you have a centralized production of heat, and then you distribute it over a waterborne network into houses in an area.
This is Toke Liengaard. He works for the Center for Global Cooperation at the Danish Energy Agency. And for the past few years, he's worked to promote district heating in partner countries across Europe and Asia. And as he explains, opting for a district heating system, as opposed to individual solutions like gas boilers, can have major economic, environmental, and social benefits.
And district heating is important because it can be a very cost-effective heating solution. Then district heating also has some benefits in being able to be very accommodating to a transition to renewables. In Denmark, we have around 70% renewables in our district heating production. And it's relatively easy for district heating to switch to renewables. And you can do it incrementally by switching the production units one by one. You can sort of transition a lot of households at the same time. And if you look at like a grander scale, then district heating also has some benefits that it is able to provide to the energy system at large. It can help balance out the power market. It can both be a producer and consumer of electricity, which can greatly increase the flexibility in the power sector. And then district heating also has some benefits that it can absorb otherwise wasted heat sources such as geothermal and industrial waste heat.
Importantly, unlocking these benefits requires intentional effort, and this is where heat planning comes into the picture. Heat planning is the work of determining the most optimal heat supply of an area. What is most optimal is ultimately a political and socio-economic question. In Denmark, the answer to that question has changed over time.
So historically in Denmark, in the 1980s, we were very focused on transitioning away from oil in household heating and transitioning to both natural gas and to district heating. And now we are planning for a green transition, going away from that natural gas and mostly into district heating and individual heat pumps. And heat planning is sort of just a planning process doing this. And you can plan for a most cost-effective solution, but you can also plan to introduce more renewables or to increase efficiency.
As Toke alludes to, the Danish impetus for taking up heat planning 5 decades ago was to move away from oil. During the oil and energy crisis of the 70s, Denmark was 99% dependent on imported fossil fuel, and individual oil-powered installations made up most of the heat supply. To increase the security of supply, as well as cost and energy efficiency in the heating sector, it was politically decided to make heat planning mandatory for local authorities. And making that decision so early on is the reason why other countries now look to Denmark as a frontrunner in the heat transition.
The Danish stronghold in heat planning is that we got started early, and we've been pretty good at it. So we implemented heat planning in the Danish system in 1979 with the introduction of the first Heat Act, and we've been doing it ever since. We try to plan for a socio-economic equilibrium and promoting socio-economic heating solutions in our system.
Today, heat planning is one of the key tools being promoted by Toke and his colleagues working to enable a green transition of energy systems abroad. And simply put, it's because 50 years of Danish experience has shown that consistent planning towards district heating has been key to providing secure, affordable, and increasingly green heat.
Yeah, the reason we promote it is that it's been a core part of our green transition, especially in the heating sector. Our work here in the Center for Global Cooperation is to help other countries going through their green transition with some of the experiences that has helped us in the Danish system. And in Denmark, district heating has played a huge role in our overall transition of our energy system, and heat planning has been a core part of how we have carried out this transition in heating.
One of the countries where this promotion has been most successful is Germany. And to tell that story, we traveled to the state of Baden-Württemberg.
My name is Volker Kienzlen. I'm the managing director of KRBV for, meanwhile, 19 years.
KRBV is the state energy agency in Baden-Württemberg, and they work to support the state's ministries, municipalities, and companies in the green transition. As part of that role, Volker and the agency have been working to enable the rollout of district heating to decarbonize the state's heat supply. And in that process, they've been inspired by the Danish success.
Well, we've seen that the fraction of district heating that you achieved was significantly higher, and district heating was implemented in the rural areas where we didn't even think about district heating. In combination with our experience that decarbonization, especially in the denser populated areas, will be not possible without district heating, we thought, well, let's have a closer look what they are doing and how they are doing that.
In 2015, a partnership was formalized between the Danish Energy Agency and the state of Baden-Württemberg to explore how Danish know-how in heat planning and district heating could be utilized in Baden-Württemberg. Here, the Danish Energy Agency, as well as the Danish Embassy in Germany, provided the regulatory perspectives on how Danish experiences could be adopted to the local boundary conditions in Baden-Württemberg. Importantly, the partnership was not only an exchange of regulatory ideas, but also included perspectives from district heating professionals, as Toke Liengaard from the Danish Energy Agency explains.
We know some of the practical work going into district heating, but a lot of it is all of it is basically carried out by the district heating companies. So it can sound a bit hollow coming from a government official talking about how they actually plan their investments. So sometimes we bring in the district heating companies to tell about what they actually do, how they carry out their work, and that can be very beneficial and much more meaningful than us just talking about it from our desk.
In the spirit of facilitating a knowledge exchange, which covers the full value chain of district heating, the Danish Energy Agency, the Trade Council of Denmark, and the Danish district energy industry have also created the Danish Fjernvarme Alliance. Apologies for my bad German here. The alliance consists of leading Danish solution providers in the district heating sector and provides a platform for them to engage in technical dialogues and projects with German peers and partners. One of the companies that's part of the alliance is Danfoss.
Danfoss is a specialist on energy efficiency, and our key expertise is to control the flow of energy and do this in a very energy efficient way. And if you move to the building and to the district heating area, there we are a leading supplier of efficient hydraulic infrastructure. And what we do is basically to enable the integration of renewable energies and excess heat.
This is Markus Lempp, Head of International Policy, Markets and Energy Economics at Danfoss. And as he explains, involving solution providers and facilitating showcases of concrete technologies is incredibly important for conveying what is actually possible.
The role of the German-Danish Energy Dialogue or the Fernwärme Alliance is to inspire and to build bridges. You can show the best projects, the latest technologies, everything which is state of the art. And maybe more importantly, it's as well to inspire the less ambitious market participants and to show them everything is there, the solutions are ready. It won't come with a cost explosion for your companies. And all this can be seen in Denmark.
Volker Kienzlen from KRBV can also attest to the value and effect of seeing the solutions and possibilities in district heating up close. Study trips to Denmark played a key role in encouraging a shift in the state's approach to their heat transition.
I think the key point is traveling to Denmark and look at it at first hand and see how it works in Denmark and not listen to presentations. And looking at that at first hand and looking at the big district heating systems helped to convince the decision makers that it should be possible to try a different approach.
At the heart of this new approach was municipal heat planning. And though it wasn't an entirely foreign concept for Baden-Württemberg, it hadn't delivered the desired outcomes. And according to Volker, the lack of a clear requirement played a big part in this.
We had several climate protection concepts in the bigger cities, and most of the climate protection concepts, they included the issue of district heating as well. But it was a voluntary approach, and many of the climate protection concepts ended up in the drawers. So this didn't help the municipalities too much.
In order to spur the transition of Baden-Württemberg's heat supply and the rollout of district heating, it was decided to work towards a model for mandatory municipal heat planning inspired by the Danish model. This might seem like quite a big shift, especially when you consider how different the conditions for district heating are in Denmark and Germany. In Denmark, district heating is a non-profit sector with good access to cheap green energy sources, whereas in Germany, green energy isn't as competitive, and most district heating companies are driven by profit. However, regardless of a given national setup, heat planning should be seen as the prerequisite for ensuring that district heating is actually a feasible solution for both consumers, investors, and the energy system, as Toke from the Danish Energy Agency explains.
So you need to make sure that it actually makes sense in an area, that it provides the benefits that you're promising. So planning is a very good approach to it, but also just having a regulatory framework that can accommodate this, and having a regulatory framework that can balance out consumer protection with actually making sure that investments are being made in the sector.
To support the implementation of mandatory municipal heat planning in Baden-Württemberg, the Danish partners helped to develop a toolbox with material on how to approach heat planning. And as Volker from KRBV states, drawing upon the long Danish track record on heat planning has been helpful.
We were very happy that we could use your experience from the last 40 years, which are in the technical catalog and in the guidelines, and we could use this experience in Baden-Württemberg.
In 2020, mandatory municipal heat planning was successfully added to Baden-Württemberg's climate protection law, requiring all cities with more than 20,000 inhabitants to work out their vision for a fossil-free heat supply and to develop a roadmap. The cities are now done with the planning process, and although it's definitely a process of trial and error, Volker is optimistic.
We had a look at the planning results. They look okay. Not every of these plans are perfect. The goal of the implementation of heat planning is that the municipality will have a climate neutral heat supply by 2040. In many of the heat plans, we see very concrete measures and good measures that will fit to the targets that we have.
Since 2020, a lot has happened both inside and outside of Germany, which is signaling the increased recognition of the importance of heat planning. At the beginning of 2024, heat planning was made mandatory at the federal level in Germany, meaning that all German cities and municipalities need to reduce heat plans. As Volker recounts, it was a happy surprise to see that the ideas and efforts from Baden-Württemberg were being implemented nationally.
No, I didn't know that this was coming, and it was kind of a time to open a bottle of champagne. Of course, this is a success story for Baden-Württemberg.
While it's too early to say what the effect of the Heat Planning Act will have in Germany, the results from Baden-Württemberg suggest that it will make a meaningful difference.
But looking at the results that we've seen in Baden-Württemberg, I assume that the share of district heating will raise significantly. We expect that it will at least double within the next 20 years. And this will not be an easy process for the cities. But if you really want to decarbonize the heat supply, at least in the denser populated neighborhoods, I don't see a real alternative to district heating.
The momentum for heat planning and district heating is by no means just a German phenomenon. The updated Energy Efficiency Directive from the EU also makes heat planning mandatory for all cities with over 45,000 inhabitants. When asked how he would advise the member states to approach this new requirement, Toke Liengaard from the Danish Energy Agency encourages them to see it as an opportunity, even if it seems foreign.
So now you have to do it. You have to do it. You have to implement it in the rules. So our advice would be get the most of it when you're doing it. Like in Denmark, we are a cold country. It's obvious that we need a heating sector and we need to work on it to make it greener. But for a lot of countries, that might not seem as obvious. It seems like Denmark can be a special case. But we're not that different to a lot of other European countries. You need to have a heat demand, of course. But if you do have a regular occurring winter time that isn't too short, I think there's a lot of potential to at least look at it.
The renewed energy around the heat transition is also felt in the market for district heating technology, as Markus Lempp from Danfoss can attest to.
So there's a lot of good vibes in the market, and the timing for district heating is very good. A lot of investors are moving, a lot of municipalities and municipal-owned utilities across Europe are moving.
One of the clearest imperatives for bidding on district heating at this very moment is the growing realization that gas is an unsustainable heat source, both in terms of its climate effect and its economic and geopolitical resilience. And as Markus explains, this creates a window of opportunity for promoting district heating.
People know we are depending on an old infrastructure, and we do not know how the future of this infrastructure will look. Here it's important that we can prove the introduction of district heating does not come with a cost explosion. There are many good examples where, and we have seen this in Ukraine crisis, that this is a sustainable and financially a sustainable solution as well.
One of those examples is how the Danish district heating system weathered the energy crisis of 2022. While the heat price for many European households skyrocketed, the average price for a household supplied with district heating in Denmark stayed stable. And to hear Toke from the Danish Energy Agency tell it, this proven resilience has made the case for district heating stronger.
Security of supply plays a bigger role after the Ukraine war. And also just like working with district heating a couple of years ago wasn't the most exciting area. It wasn't as prioritized, but now people are really interested in this technology and what it has to provide, and the Danish experiences.
However, it's important to ensure that this window of opportunity is utilized by both public and private decision makers to generate support for district heating and the heat transition in general. Because for the average citizen, the trials and tribulations of the 2022 energy crisis are likely to be forgotten already, as Volker from Kia BV has experienced in his work.
People forgot already what happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, there were many people who said, when can I connect to the district heating network? Now they see that gas got cheap again and forgot about the problems that we had 2 years ago.
As Volker alludes to, economics remain the paramount challenge for rolling out district heating, both in terms of making it a competitive alternative to fossil fuel, but also in terms of securing the funds needed to establish and build out district heating networks, which are essentially long-term infrastructure investments that may have high upfront costs.
One of the challenges, like always, is the money. District heating is not cheap, and these billions of euro are not available in the municipalities, and we have to find out ways to finance these systems because the payback time, as you know, is a very long one.
This is especially true for areas where collective heat infrastructure is non-existent. And as Markus Lempp from Danfoss explains, this presents a major challenge across Europe.
The situation is similar across Europe. That means the heat transition is challenged, as you say, in rural areas. Because in rural areas, you do not have infrastructure for district heating. You do not even have an infrastructure for natural gas. So what people do is they use oil burners, and this is CO2-wise the worst thing you can do.
This makes it all the more important to focus on solutions in the district heating sector, which can help strengthen the business case, as well as highlight the cost efficiency in making a collective heat transition instead of replacing individual boilers. At Danfoss, for instance, they're promoting smaller grids powered by locally sourced renewable energy as a way to address the challenges in rural Europe.
And a microgrid means that you connect 10 to 1,000 buildings to one single heat source. And this can be easily done even in a rural area. And we had a very nice project lately in Bavaria. It ended with a microgrid and a biomass plant. And meanwhile, all municipal buildings in this town are connected to the microgrid, and 60 other buildings as well. And all this was implemented within months. It as well reduced the cost. If you compare the installation of individual oil or gas boilers or a biomass boiler to a connection to a microgrid, the connection to the microgrid is 20% cheaper compared to the gas or oil boiler, and even 30% cheaper compared to the biomass burner. So it makes sense from all sides. So the municipality is decarbonizing, people become independent from fossil heat sources, and they save money.
Another important type of innovation to highlight are data-driven solutions and AI, as they can bring down the cost significantly on both the consumer and the supplier side. For instance, AI algorithms can predict heating demand based on historical data, weather forecasts, and even individual consumer behavior. This type of forecasting data can help adjust the flow of heat in an intelligent manner according to actual demand. And as Markus explains, this is key in lowering the costs of the entire system.
And therefore, the system is able to reduce the heat load in the system even in advance and much earlier than you would do this yourself. This means this is flattening the curve a little bit. So the peaks are going down. And if you imagine all infrastructure is designed to cover the maximum peak. If you reduce this peak, this is for the whole system a very big step because it means saving a lot of money. And as a consequence, you and all your neighbors would save about 7% of energy immediately, almost immediately. We had this in a large project in Hanover, 700 buildings connected. And after 2 months, they had savings of 7%. So really incredible just by installing some sensors and this software.
In addition, digital and AI solutions strengthen the business case for district heating by modeling and balancing the integration of renewables and waste heat, as well as allowing for predictive and proactive maintenance to avoid downtime in the system. In short,
digitalization is really, really the answer and the big thing to get to the next level.
In the aftermath of the most recent energy crisis, many countries are asking themselves the same questions about security of supply and cost and energy efficiency that prompted Denmark to initiate its heat transition 50 years ago. And just like district heating was an important part of the Danish answer back then, there's a clear case for betting on district heating today. Although it's important to be clear-eyed about the fact that district heating is not the optimal solution in all places and cases, that doesn't negate the importance of taking heat planning very seriously. Quite the contrary, as Toke from the Danish Energy Agency remarks.
Even though district heating has a lot of benefits for the green transition, it doesn't fit everywhere. So you should see it as part of your toolkit and something you can bring out and use in some cases. Whether or not it makes sense, you need some planning for that. And heat planning is the important way to go.
In essence, effective heat planning provides certainty for developers, security for investors, and ensures reliable heating for residents. Heat planning is finding the best possible solution for a city or municipality to live up to its aspirations, be it decarbonization, low heat costs, security of supply, or livability. And as Volker from KBV can attest to, it's a necessary first step in the heat transition that they've started in Baden-Württemberg and that ultimately needs to happen globally.
Without a mandatory heat planning, you don't get forward. I think that's the key issue. Everybody who's really aware that climate protection is one of the key issues of the future generation should be aware that there's no alternative to a carbon-neutral heat supply.
And while the heat transition is certainly a huge and challenging undertaking, the Danish example is a testament to the results that can be achieved by staying diligent, as Toke from the Danish Energy Agency states.
It can seem like a very difficult sector to change. When you go in and make a transition, you are working inside people's households, changing their boilers, which can be very difficult for people and a very difficult process. The big idea is just get started. It doesn't happen in a day. It's not going to be perfect. We've made plenty of mistakes along the way. There's been periods where nothing much has happened, or maybe not enough has happened. But we've been at it more or less for 40 years, and things happen in increments. Sometimes things go fast, but just getting started, working on it. And heat planning is a very good place to start.
Some people might look at this fact and note that the rest of the world doesn't have time on their side. And that's true. We are in a rush. But what's just as true is that ambitions and hopes for a greener future won't be fulfilled if we don't seize the opportunities that are presented to us.
This rush, this new development as well brings new opportunities. Mistakes are made, but to make a little mistake is better than making no mistake but having no new steps to the future.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Sound of Green. We want to give a special thanks to Toke Liengaard from the Danish Energy Agency, Volker Kienzlen from KBV, and Markus Lempp from Danfoss for sharing their insights. For more knowledge on the Danish approach to heat planning and district heating, you can download our publication, District Energy, through the link in the episode notes. On our website, you can dive deeper into Denmark's experiences with creating a sustainable society and connect with the solution providers that make it possible.